I'm Dorothy. No one else. Me.
What the fuck was that from?
I love that line. The I'm Dorothy.
Oh, that, yeah.
I'm Dorothy. No one else can be Dorothy. My mom's the president of the PTA.
Ever heard of Title IX?
Oh my god, I forgot about that line. Oh my god, what was that in context to the title?
She was wrestling, and they were like,
Oh yeah.
girls can't wrestle. Ever heard of Title IX?
God, she's so fucking good. Oh god, I love fucking Patty Farrell. I was about to call her Dorothy. Welcome back to Psyched Up Cinema. We are going to introduce ourselves this time because we forgot to do that last episode. I'm John.
I'm Kate.
And welcome to the show. We do have a dog in here.
Special guest.
Special guest, the dog. He's big chilling on the floor, so if you hear some breathing, that's who it is.
He's heavy breathing.
Yeah, he is heavy breathing. We just
Say
went on
hi
a
to
walk.
Harry.
Harry Bear. Anyways, today we are talking about Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the first one, not Robert Rules, not Dog Days, and not the fucking shitty remake that they did. I think that's Last Straw. I think I always get confused because, all right, I'm kind of a wimp head. You know, I used to
Wimp head? Is
Yeah.
that what they call it?
I don't fucking know. When I was in middle school, I was one of those kids that like exclusively read the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books. Like,
God, you're one
whenever
of
there was a book
those.
report, I would read Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
I made fun of those kids.
I was one of those kids because those fucking books are so good. Anyways, and there's like I forget how many there are now, but
There's like fucking 15 of them.
yeah, there's the new one just came out not too long ago.
Yeah.
I think the last one I read was Cabin Fever, which is the
He must
sixth
be
one.
like getting married at this point.
I think he's still in middle school. I think it's kind of
Yeah.
like a Simpsons situation or like a South Park situation where like the time just did not change. They're like stuck in
No
that.
matter how many times he gets a spring break and a
Yeah.
winter break and a summer break,
Yeah,
he just
exactly.
goes back to the same grade every year.
So like I kind of remember the books a little bit. I think Dog Days, which is the fourth one, was my favorite book. But I think I was also kind of biased because I love the color yellow, and that book was yellow.
You would have some stupid ass opinion like that.
So and so yeah, the sixth one was the last one I read. So like I know these books kind of well. This is like my version of like, oh yeah, well I've read the book, so anyways, Diary of a Wimpy Kid released in 2010, directed by Thor. I don't know how the hell to say his last name. Frudenthal. I don't know how the fuck to say his name. Stars Zachary Gordon and Robert Capron. It made 64 million domestic, 12 million international. Had a budget of 15 million, and it made 22 million on its opening weekend. So made its budget back. So good opening.
They gotta do a 20-year re-release.
They do got to do 20-year re-release. Actually, they could do the 15-year
That's
next
true.
year. Oh god, I'll be in seats for that. So I think we'll get to it when we talk.
That'd be so hyped to watch that
I'd fucking
live,
love that.
though.
I'd love to go see that again.
It'd be all people our age.
Absolutely, yeah. It may be like a little bit younger too. I could see kids maybe like being born in like 2004, like in this, because it'd be
Yeah.
like 6 or 5.
I
Prime-
love when kids from younger generations get to appreciate the things that we enjoyed growing up.
Yeah.
It's just timeless.
Yeah, when we watched Shrek 2, so except for that
Yeah.
one fucking annoying kid that was sitting in front of us.
Another reminder of why we'll never have children.
Well, to clarify, we're not just saying like this kid was annoying because like they were in the theater, like they were like running up and down like
Oh
the
my
fucking thing. They wouldn't
God.
shut up the entire time, and then their parents kept shushing the kid, and then the kid got shushed so much that like if anyone laughed at a joke, she would shush at them, like the kid.
Shushing the audience for enjoying the movie when for half of the movie she was screaming, "Mommy, Daddy, I don't want to be here. Yeah. Can I sit on Daddy's lap? Can I sit on your lap?" Oh my god, I can't.
Anyways, that would be good. How do you think this movie was received? Like, if you were to like, if you were to think about Rotten Tomatoes score or some shit like that, the Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic score are almost exactly the same. So, like, if you said,
I would think it was pretty well received
so you
because
think
the
maybe,
books were well liked.
yeah, and also Robert Rules is also really well received.
Yeah.
So how do you think this one was received? Like, what
Like
percentage do you think?
rating?
Yeah, like maybe like percentage, like 70, 50,
I was
80.
thinking somewhere around 75.
Has a Rotten Tomato score of 55%.
What?
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh
And then
god.
Metacritic is
I
like
hate
56. Because like I've said in the last episodes, I hate Rotten Tomatoes. I
I
think Rotten Tomatoes
fucking
is
hate
stupid.
Rotten Tomatoes. They're always wrong. They
Yeah,
rate every movie that I like poorly.
and it's weird because usually like Rotten Tomatoes, there might be like it might be like a 55%, but then like Metacritic might be like 70%. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, that makes a little more sense. I think like when we talked about Shutter Island, like uh it had a like I think it had like a 60 Rotten Tomato, but if you went on Metacritic, it was like 70 because Metacritic actually takes into account
The
like
audience.
it takes into account the actual score, but when
Oh.
Rotten Tomatoes does it, it's like, all right, if you didn't give this a 6 out of 10, you don't like this movie. It's rotten. But if you give it a 6, it's a tomato.
What? That's
So
stupid.
hypothetically, a movie out of 100 reviewers, a movie could get a 6 out of 10 out of like 100 people and it would have a 100% Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
But if a movie that is getting like 10 out of 10s, and then maybe there's two critics that give it a bad score, then it's a 98%. So it looks like the 6 out of 10 movie is better
That
than.
is so fucking
Yeah, that's
stupid
why
because I do not care what a critic has to say.
So usually Metacritic is a little bit higher because it takes into account that number score, but it's weird that it's a 56%.
Anyone who doesn't like this movie sucks,
It's a fucking
so
idiot, yeah.
they're just lying to themselves.
And even Letterbox has like it's a 3.1. So that's usually like the middle rating people will give a movie. They'll give it like a 3 out of 5 or something like that. That's usually middle. For me, I give it a 2.5. But I mean, like, but
What?
yeah. So
That's outrageous.
this movie is like received as pretty middle of the road, but
That's just false.
it's really fucking good.
It is a really good movie. You gave it a 2.5?
No. I'm saying if I give a movie a 2.5, that means like that's like average.
Oh, okay.
Like
What did you rate this movie?
I think originally I gave it a 3.5. Um, and I think now I've moved it up to a 4.5 because I keep watching it and I keep liking it. So I
It's
think it goes up like a half score
I
every time I
swear it
watch
gets
it.
better. It gets better
Yeah,
when you watch
it does
it
get better
multiple
every time I watch
times.
it.
It's so good.
I think like you pick up on more jokes because
Yeah.
I think when you first start it for the first time, you're like, this is always gonna be some stupid fucking kids movie,
Yeah.
but it's actually like really funny.
You have to let yourself enjoy it.
Yeah,
Talk yourself into just letting yourself enjoy it.
and I think also this movie's underrated because people compare it to the second one, which I do think the second one is better than this one.
It's so good.
But I think
Loaded diaper. Goated.
exploded diapers.
Are over the place.
So I think people will watch the second one and then be like, "This is so much better than the first one," and then they'll kind of like not think about the first one, or like if they go to rewatch the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movie, they're like, "I want to watch the second one."
They are both great in their own ways.
Yeah, and I do like how both of these movies approach like the story because it's like segments of like a life, but then they kind of like comes all together. So like the overarching story is like Greg being popular.
Mhm.
So we see him do all these different things. He has his wrestling, he has his like school police, and then he has his Wizard of Oz thing. And there's so much other things that happen in between, but it's like just like segments of this kid's like school.
Yeah.
And I think the second one also does it, but I think the second one does a better job of tying all the threads together.
Yeah, that's true. I can agree with that.
But the fucking segments in this movie are so
Every
funny.
single one of them is
They're
really good.
all funny. It's all like so like there's the trick or treating bit. The trick or treating bit is fucking awesome. And that one does a good job at tying to the end.
Yeah.
There's the cheese touch and the like because it kind of like allude to it with like the German exchange
Oh,
student.
here's a question. Did the cheese touch go around in your school?
Maybe?
That was a big thing in my middle school. Except it was whoever people perceived as the grossest kid in the grade. That's so mean. I look back on that. I'm like, that's so fucking mean. But whoever was perceived as the most disgusting kid in the grade, it was that person's name, Touch. And any person who touched that kid would then carry their touch. It was so mean. That was like the worst form of bullying. Imagine being like the person that nobody's allowed to get near or else they'll be avoided.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the kid who was chosen did pick his ears with a pair of scissors and pick his nose with pencils.
What the fuck?
So,
Does he have ears now? With scissors?
he actually had really large ears.
I remember one time in school, I got in trouble for, like, cutting my hair with, like, a pair of, like, baby scissors. Like,
Why? Why did you do
it
that?
wasn't, like, a big clump of hair. I took a little bit of the back of my hair, and I just cut it a little bit. John cut his hair, and I got in trouble. I was like, "Bruh, like, be fucking for real. It's not like I cut anyone else's hair."
I actually got away with murder in middle school, not gonna lie. I stabbed someone with a pencil.
Oof,
Oh, she still has the mark.
nice. Anyways, um so what do you think of this movie overall? Because I showed it to you, and at first, like, sometimes when you want to watch, you don't want to watch a movie that I tell you is good, like the Lego Batman movie, and then
I agreed to that one.
you did well. So, because one night I gave you the choice of watching 50 Shades of Grey or Lego Batman, and at some point through 50 Shades of Grey, you were like, "I wish I was watching the Lego Batman movie." So then it
'Cause
was an
it
easy
was
sell.
horrible.
50 Shades of Grey.
I hated every second of it.
50 Shades of Grey.
Yes.
Okay, you had to clarify because it sounds
Yes.
like you saying you hated every second of the
No,
Lego
I
Batman
loved
movie.
Lego Batman. It's funny as fuck.
But so what did you think of this? Because you at first were kind of a little hesitant, but then like the next day you wanted to watch Robin Rules.
I thought it was really funny, and I think that although it's obviously dramatic for the sake of it being a movie and making its point, it does have some good, accurate, overarching themes of what it's like growing up and how important certain things seem. And when you grow up and reflect on those things, you're like, that was ridiculous. Why did I care about that? Like being popular in middle school. Can you think of all the popular kids from your middle school?
No, but they're probably losers now.
Exactly. Exactly. That's how I feel. I'm like, I could probably name 3 kids that were popular in middle school, and I bet you they all suck now because they
Yeah,
sucked then too.
yeah, yeah. I think you're right. I think this movie, even though it is uh over exaggerated, it does a very good job of adapting kind of what it's like to be in school and like the shit you care about, the stupid like little things that go in between students, like the cheese touch or
Mhm.
whatever, and the school police, the
I
different
was the bus
plays.
patrol.
I was not bus patrol. I was not, unfortunately. My middle school didn't have bus patrol, but my elementary school did, and you could have been one in 5th grade, but my teacher hated me, so in 4th grade, so I didn't get it.
I remember receiving my bus patrol belt thing. It was this big, thick orange belt that you went over your shoulder like a seat belt and then also went around your waist. And the principal was like, okay, kids, remember, you're bus patrol, not bus boss. And my brother and I quoted that all the time throughout elementary school because it was just so, he was very serious about bus patrol. God knows who gave my brother the bus patrol belt because that was the worst mistake they ever made.
But it does such a good job of like encapsulating that, and even like the stuff that's not even involved in school, like the murder killer woods,
Yeah.
is just like the stupid lore stuff you believe as a kid.
Uh-huh.
It just does such a good job, at least like for my childhood, in capturing what it was like to be a child.
What were the stupid local stories that were told in your area growing up? Like the murder woods or whatever the fuck it was called?
Um, I think we believed that a murderer lived in a neighborhood behind us.
Hmm.
I think that was mine. But I don't think there was like a town wide one. We just had like a neighborhood one. And this one I was living in Mansfield.
Mine was there's a you know that abandoned building like on the corner when you go down past Rosie's house? It's
Maybe.
on the corner. It's that big building. It's fenced off. It's near where we picked up that coffee table.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you pretend like you just said there's an abandoned house so that way the people in the audience don't have to listen to you explain that house. They
Yeah.
have no idea where it is.
Well, you know that abandoned building that's down by where we picked up that coffee
Yes.
table? So it used to be an auto shop, but it's been abandoned for so long and it's deemed uninhabitable because of all like the oil that's spilled there
Oh,
over the
okay.
time. And they refuse to clean it up. So it's just this abandoned building with the roof caved in and everything. And so people all throughout all my years of school on the bus would be like, "Look, it's the place where the homeless people go." There's I can't say I've ever seen a homeless person there ever,
Yeah.
and I've lived nearby my entire fucking life, so I
Mhm.
don't know where people got that. People see shitty rundown house and they go, "Homeless people live there." They
Also,
called it the hobo house. Yeah.
also, this movie does a good job of showing like what it's like to have a sibling. And it's funny because I was in the exact opposite situation where I was the youngest and I also had three sisters. So I was living with three sisters, and Greg obviously lives with two brothers. So like I didn't get that same experience of having a brother, but
Or being a middle kid.
or being a milk kid, yeah. But it's they just like the way older siblings prank you or whatever, or how you get them in trouble or how you see them get in trouble.
Yeah.
It just does such a good job of capturing all of that.
I am a younger sibling and I only have an older brother, but I was the asshole who pulled pranks. I used to lock him in the bathroom, do mean shit like that, and put gross things on my hand and threaten to throw it at him. I used to pick up worms and daddy long leg spiders and threaten to put them on him, so I'd chase him around the driveway with bugs.
And I my one of my sisters, for some reason, because my parents built the first house where we lived in, or I lived in as a kid. For some reason, there was a light switch on the outside of the bathroom, but not the inside.
Yeah, we had that too.
I don't know what fucking architecture people in the Northeast are thinking about, but why in the fuck would you put a light switch for a bathroom on the outside of the
Our
bathroom?
lock was on the outside too, so I'd lock him inside.
So yeah, one of my sisters used to like keep me in the bathroom and like turn off the light. And then one of my other sisters, one time, I remember this, she put like hot water in her hands, or like warm water. And I think I was maybe like 4 or 5 or something like that. And she wiped it across my face and was like, that was pee on my face or pee on my hands. So then now,
Oh,
like, I thought I
that's
had pee on my face.
evil. Did you go and scrub your face?
I think I started crying or something.
Oh, mean.
But it's so good how this movie like captures all of that.
Yeah. I feel like anyone with a sibling has either tormented or been tormented by them.
Yeah. And also, all the performances are so good in this movie because every time, like, you might watch an older movie or something like that, or a movie with a bunch of kids, and there's like that one kid where you're like, "Oh, this kid sucks ass. Like, he's
Yeah.
not a good actor." And there's nothing against the kid because the kid's just young.
Come
Like,
on, kid, you're not locked in.
yeah. But like, every kid is like good in this,
Yeah.
and maybe it's just because
Patty Farrell goaded.
Patty Farrell, even the kid that plays Greg, the kid that plays Rowley, even though I said their names earlier, I can't remember the actors' names. Rowley's
The
friend.
kid from the show Jesse, what the hell was his name?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Uh,
Yeah,
he's so fucking good in this.
he's so funny.
Uh, what the fuck is the gross kid's name?
Oh, it began with an F.
Fregley.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fregley. He's so good in this. I think Fregley probably might be my favorite.
I am actually convinced that he's like that in real life. That's how good he did.
What the fuck did he say? He's like, "You want to see my secret nipple or something like that?"
My secret freckle
Yeah,
or
freckle. Yeah.
mole. It's got a hair in
You're in
it.
it. And then the fucking booger segment. Like that
Oh
that
man.
segment purely exists to be for kids that have gone to a sleepover and have like not wanted to be there.
Yeah.
I remember like those times as a kid where like somebody would ask me to stay over and I would tell my parents beforehand to say no. So that way like
Sorry, my mom says I can't come.
yeah. So like it's just the way this movie like captures what it was like to be a kid, especially for me, is like really like means something to me. And I think that's why I like this movie so much.
Yeah.
I think I appreciate more of the school lore and like the interaction between the kids than the sibling interaction of the second movie. But I think that might just be my personal opinion.
I think it's all pretty accurate, the first and second movie, the interactions between the kids. It's just so good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the party sequence in the second one. I mean,
Yeah.
but that's like what that movie is known for is that party sequence. But
Yeah.
that everything with the door.
I also like the fact that it shows siblings who hate each other in some capacity, then becoming friends after scheming together.
Yeah,
every set of siblings has done something where they scheme together,
Yeah,
and neither one wants to be ratted on, so they decide to be chill for the day. I think everyone with a sibling can relate to
yeah.
that.
But that's a topic if we talk about the second movie,
It's true.
which I could see us talking about that movie at some point. Um, Also, this movie was shot on film, so
Oh, yeah.
it's a cinematic movie,
I
cinematic
do
experience.
like the graininess of it.
Yeah, this movie does have a nice like texture to it, and
Yeah.
maybe that kind of helps with even though like when we were growing up, it was definitely more the digital era because like camcorders were around and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But I think just the way you remember stuff as a kid, I think you look through it through a certain lens, and I feel like seeing that like grainy look kind of gives it that nice little throwback.
Nostalgia feel, kind of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it helps you. I think it just helps you like bring you back a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm just thinking about the scene where, Greg throws the ball at Raleigh and he breaks his arm.
You
I
know,
rem
I broke his arm.
I just remember getting a cast in elementary school was, like, the coolest thing that you could do, and everyone wanted to sign it, and even super unpopular kids became popular when they had a cast on, and
Yeah,
I was so envious of that. Anytime I got an injury in gymnastics, I was like, "Oh boy, I sure hope it's not broken, I wouldn't want a cast." Unfortunately, I never got to live out my dreams of having a cast. Very sad.
SMH.
I
I
know.
never had a cast either,
I should
so.
have broken something. I should have tried harder.
I think mentioning the Halloween thing definitely brought something back for me. The Halloween sequence, because I remember when I was a kid, we had this strategy where we would go around, we would have different sets of costumes. So we would
Really?
go,
You did a costume change?
yes. So and
That's
then we would
awesome.
go around like 2 or 3 times in different costumes.
I love that. That's so
Yeah.
sick.
So like one of the costumes would have a mask, so that way like you don't know what at all.
That's genius. Why didn't I think of that?
There was one time where somebody was like, "Didn't you come around here before?" And I was like, "Nope." I'm like, "Oh,
I don't know
okay."
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
My I was a try hard on Halloween. I always went with obscure face paint. Like one time in like 6th or 7th grade, I came with a zipper on my face and it looked like my face was unzipped from the
Oh, that's cool.
nose
Yeah, I think I
down.
remember that picture.
And people, when I came up to their houses, asked to take photos of me, so there was no way I was getting away with coming around a second time. But I would also hit up the rich neighborhoods and knew all of the places that would offer full-size candy bars.
Right. And I think that just like the important thing when you're a kid is just like knowing how to hit the best Halloween, whether it's going around multiple
Yep.
times, finding the best houses.
Using a pillowcase to carry your
Yeah,
candy
using
in.
the pillowcase. I think I always use the pillowcase. I think that
Oh,
was like my
yeah.
go-to.
And I had a specific pillowcase that was just for Halloween.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember like kids like carrying around. Like I remember the age where I got out of the stupid jack o' lantern bucket
Yeah.
because the pillowcase is the way to go.
Yeah.
Know how to stop.
There's no other way to do it.
Exactly.
And then whoever's dad was taking us trick or treating that year, when it got too heavy, we just all poured it into his pillowcase and then he had to carry it.
Nice. What else do you think is what he does well?
I kind of miss trick or treating being a big thing because I don't know about you, but I feel like it's kind of fading with time. I never see trick or treaters in this area anymore. And I don't know if it's because all the kids in my area are kind of growing up, but nobody comes down my street anymore.
I think it's just something that kind of the areas change with time.
Well, also, I think COVID kind of killed it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think COVID definitely affected it.
And people are more weary of stranger danger now.
I feel like Halloween has become more of an adult thing
Yeah.
where people will dress up and go to costume parties, drink,
Yeah.
watch horror movies. Um, which I mean, when I was a kid, I never liked scary things. Like I was something I avoided. It wasn't until college where I started to get into horror. So now, like, I'm not like a mega horror guy, but I like horror. I like slasher movies. But I think now I'm at the age where it's like, oh yeah, this Halloween I want to fucking dress up as this on Halloween day and watch a fuck ton of movies on Halloween. That's like what I want to do.
The one thing that's disappointing about that to me is that women are kind of expected to wear revealing costumes, and that's not my vibe. Like, I wanna go in something gross. I wanna
Yeah,
unzip my face again because
yeah,
it's fucking sick. I don't wanna be like, "Sexy police officer."
or
No.
Playboy bunny.
Yeah. I'd rather go as, like, a ghost from Ghostbusters.
Yeah. Oh my god. I love fucking Rowley's fucking costume.
Yes.
I feel like we all known that kid where
Yes.
it's
That would be my neighbors from or yeah. They weren't even allowed to walk their dog without wearing a neon vest.
yeah. And I think just the different segments of kids in this movie represent types of kids that we went to
Yeah.
school with. Like Greg, even though like he's the protagonist and you follow him, I think you know that he's kind of an asshole. And
Yeah.
maybe we could talk about that in a little bit. But where he was trying to be popular, or I think he might also be a good way for the audience to represent, because I think when you are in school, you want to be popular. So I think sometimes you like understand where Greg is coming from, and you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense because I would do that too. Like
Yeah.
I think so. It is smart, and the book also does the same thing too. Like this movie and the book, I would say are pretty much one to one from what I remember, except Chloe Grace Moretz's character, I don't think she's in the book. I think she's a character created for the movie,
Oh.
and I also think there's a couple more bits in the book. And I also don't think I don't remember the teens coming up at the end of the teenagers with the truck coming up in the
Oh.
book. I
Mm.
don't remember that. But the same like general idea of Greg wants to be popular in the school
I like
is
how
kind of
they
carried through.
incorporate the sketches throughout the
Yeah,
movie.
this movie does do a good job of like transitioning from the sketches to that. Like I love the sequence where Roderick pulls out the mom and son dance, and then they all turn into their drawings.
Yeah.
So it's just cool to see how they incorporate the book in with the film. It does a really good job with that.
Yeah.
But like I said, the kids just all represent part of a kid that you knew in school. Like Riley definitely represents the uptight kid, and his parents don't let him do anything or
His
whatever.
mom's his best friend.
Mom is his best friend. Obviously, like, there's not a kid that represents all of that. It's a
Yeah.
exaggeration, but you know kids that like remind
Yeah.
you of
I
that.
feel like you can look at every single one of the characters in the movie and say, "Oh, that reminds me of this person that I went to school with."
Right. And I think it does do such a good job. Like, because for this whole episode, we've been talking about, remember this from the movie? That makes me think of this from my
Yeah.
childhood. That shows how good of a job this movie does at just encapsulating encapsulating a childhood, at least for us. Like, obviously, like, I don't expect every person our age to watch this movie and be like, yeah, I connect with that.
Where is it do they give us an idea of where Greg lives? Where's this based out of?
I don't think so. But if I were to like guess, I'd probably say like the Midwest or something like that, or like
Yeah.
Middle America, something like that.
Cuz I'm curious if there's a different image of school being portrayed because I know different places in the US kind of structure school differently. I
Yeah,
don't know if there was a particular area he was trying to show.
yeah. I'm not sure. I think it's just supposed to be like generic, like suburban America. Because like I don't think somebody who like grew up in a city like New York City is gonna really connect with this movie
Yeah, that's
super.
true.
Because like I don't think they'll, at least for me, I don't think like they've done the stupid shit like throwing a football at like somebody while they're trying to ride a tricycle or something like that. Which like for me, like we would always do stupid things like
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah.
Should we talk about Greg's manipulation a little bit?
Yeah.
Now, to clarify, this episode isn't about manipulation.
No.
It's
It's
gonna be
also not about villainizing Greg either, because I think everyone can kind of relate to Greg in a
right,
way. Everybody's done something stupid and mean that made somebody else feel bad to make themselves feel better.
right. And because this episode's mainly gonna be about how when you were a kid you thought stuff was important, but it wasn't actually. But it is important to bring up Greg because he is kind of a vital part of what we'll be talking about.
Yeah, so Greg kind of starts off like a typical kid and he's got a best friend. He loves his best friend and he starts to realize how much pressure there is to be a certain way in order to make more friends, and that just seems to overtake him and overtake his mind and his priorities, so he starts treating his friend like absolute shit to try to lift himself up, and I love how it shows that backfiring for him
Yep.
and shows that the people who are genuine are the ones who end up succeeding in the end, which I don't think is necessarily true in middle school. The kids who are genuine get fucking shit all over.
Yeah.
Um, but I think in the long run in life, when you're true to yourself, you end up doing better and you don't end up peaking in high school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there is something to be said about, yeah, like when you're yourself as a kid, you will get bullied. And that's just kind of like, unfortunately, how it is, unless like you are cool, I guess. But like you said, I don't think it's, I think it's something you won't see in your grade. But like when you grow up and you are genuine to yourself, you'll probably be happier with yourself than
Yeah.
somebody who force themselves to be someone else. Because now you're like, you suffer through a crisis of like, who am I? Like,
Yeah, and
what is my
you have a
purpose?
lot of shit that you have to undo in adulthood from forcing yourself to fit this mold that never was you to begin with.
Yeah,
To quote Fallout Boy, I became such a strange shape from trying to fit in.
that's true.
I love Fallout
I
Boy.
should keep that I should keep that silence in. Um,
Trying to fit in and like in adulthood, you
right.
end up having to undo all of the shit that you did in middle school that allowed you to fit in.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people that were considered cool in middle school, as you get older, you're like, they did really shitty things. Like,
Mhm.
I remember girls that were popular in middle school were those people that treated the special needs and disabled kids in school like they were their pets.
Yeah.
It was fucking gross. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna record myself asking this one to prom. How charitable am I? I'm taking this special needs kid to prom. That makes me better than everyone else. Fuck those people.
Yeah. The way Greg, like, because he starts off the movie where he's like, I think I'm like 17 in the popular rating. It's like nobody fucking knows you.
Yeah.
It's so weird to see. Well, because like as a kid, I do think you are more important than you are,
Yeah.
especially in school.
Well, kids are inherently egocentric because they don't really have much of a frame of reference.
Right.
You really don't think outside yourself. You're very self-serving as a child, which is not to like bash children and call them
Right.
like self-centered or egotistical, but you really don't think outside
Yeah.
of your own mind and you struggle to understand the impact that you have on other people because you really don't think outside your own feelings until you kind of hit that middle school age and then you're like, "Oh shit, the stuff that I do has like real consequences on the people around me." Like Greg made his friend feel like shit
Yeah.
and made himself act like such an asshole that people didn't like him when that's the one thing he was trying to accomplish.
Right. And he tries to play off like him fucking over his friend as like a joke.
Yeah.
And he still tries to portray himself that he's not fully in the wrong.
Mm.
But yeah, and I think when you are a kid, your world is your house, your neighborhood, and your school.
And so many of the friends you have in childhood are convenience friendships.
Right.
It's just whoever's closest to you.
Right. And and just like kind of Greg to Rally, they probably don't care about your feelings or whatever. They're just there because you're there.
Yeah.
You live in the house next to them or something like that. So it's just like your friends.
And when you're older and that starts to change and your friends start to make new friends and you go off to maybe different high schools and then eventually different colleges, you have to figure out, is your friendship meaningful outside of you just being a convenience to each other? Like
Yeah.
they're there because they're just there physically.
Or are they there because they're like genuinely your friend?
Yeah.
And I think you do see a lot of that with like I think for the most part I keep decently well in touch with. I mean, I didn't have like a ton of friends. I wasn't like number
Mr.
17 yeah, I
Popular.
wasn't number 17 in the popular list or anything like that. But like there's a lot of kids where like I think I'm still friends with a fair amount of people I went to that I was friends with in high school and middle school and stuff like that. Because a lot of my middle school friends thankfully went to the same high school, so I've kind of continued being friends with them.
I can't relate. I burned most of my bridges year to year. I think you were pretty popular in undergrad, though. I swear to God,
I was really popular undergrad, so.
everywhere that I went with you on campus, people would be like, "Hey, John,
Hey, John.
good to see you, John."
Well, because well, one, I was one in undergrad. I was part of a big student org. Two, I did lighting. Not a lot of people did lighting, or if they did lighting, they weren't good at it. Like they use a fucking lamp to light a scene or whatever. I don't care if that person hears this. Or
Or
three.
melted one of those gel things.
Oh my god, yeah, the fucking somebody. So if you don't know, there's these things called paper gels, and you put them in front of lights that can't change color, and it changes the color because paper gel is a different matte color. So like you could have a red gel, and you put it on front of like a blank light, and it makes the light look red. If you put that on a hot light, which is a light with like a bulb in it, not an LED, if you put it directly on the light, it will catch fire and start smoking.
No way. Who
Yeah,
would have thought? A
so
hot light
it is
melting
it is a hot
things?
light.
My
So
mom actually melted part of our couch by putting a lamp bulb too close to it. There's still a burn mark on the couch.
see, I was popular in undergrad because, well, I don't even think I was popular. I think I was just well known. I don't want to like give myself too much credit. Like, yeah, I was popular. Everyone knows me.
You're
And
an
stuff like
Emerson
that.
celebrity.
And also, everyone that knew me were film people, and the film people were pretty tight there. So like, and now I don't even fucking do that because there's no money in it. So there's no money and no career in it.
Well, I think it's interesting because both of us were really involved in undergrad, but I had such a different experience. Like I was l- part of like the leadership of like 6 different clubs,
Hmm.
and I had like no friends.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I was very fortunate enough in undergrad to have close friends and stuff like that, who I still talk to and stuff like that. One of my best friends I met in undergrad, like literally in my second year or something like that. I met him, so and I'm still friends with the people I first lived with and stuff like that. Anyways, what were we talking about? We're talking about we're talking about middle school, right?
Yeah, as you get older, you start to realize like your friendships were mostly based on convenience,
Right.
but
And I think also when you get older, at least for me, when you hit college and stuff like that, I feel like the friendships you form are more meaningful, or you go in with the purpose of them being more meaningful rather than convenience.
and you also end up befriending people, at least this is my experience. You end up being friends with people who are different from you, and that makes the friendship stronger. Whereas when you're growing up, you look for kids who play the same games
Yeah.
as you, live in the same neighborhood as you, are the same age as you.
Right. And I think you revert because, like, when you're a kid, like, you are probably friends with the same people that live in a similar income as you, that come from the same, like, racial background as you and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So when you go to college and stuff like that, you meet people from different backgrounds. You get a lot more of a diverse background. And now I'm friends with, because when I was a kid, I was friends with a bunch of fucking white guys because that's who I went to school with. And so it's like, and now I'm friends with a bunch of different people.
Yeah, and being in a master's program, God, I did not realize how vastly different the people would be because I don't know, I was going into it directly from undergrad, and I guess I had this misunderstanding that a lot of people did that. And some of the people that I love the most in that program are like 50.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty sick. Once you're an adult, it's like fine to be friends with people outside your age range. And it's actually really cool because you learn a lot from people at different ages and backgrounds and experiences. Like some of the people in my program are having kids,
Yeah.
owning houses, and
Yeah. So to tie it back to Diary Wimpy Kid, because it sounds like we're on a big tangent, but we're,
which we kind of are.
we are on a little bit of a tangent, but we'll come back to it. This movie shows and connects so well to when you are a kid, you think that like these are the friends you'll be with forever. Greg thinks that he's going to be friends with Rowley forever. So that's why he's trying to change Rowley and to be more cool. So that way when they grow up, they can be like cool together and stuff like that. And I think Greg comes with good intentions.
Yeah,
I
he
think
doesn't want Rowley to be made fun of.
exactly. Yeah, he thinks he's doing Rowley a favor, but in actuality, he's not making Rowley himself.
He ripped Rowley away from Joshy.
He did rip Rowley away from Joshy. What
That
the
was a
what?
sick bike.
Hey Bryce, nice butt. And Rowley is kind of, this is kind of be a bad word phrasing for it. He's like a beacon of like hope. Like even though Greg like is keeps doing these things to like try to change Rowley and stuff like that, Rowley is still himself. And I think when you are growing up, I think like the bullies, the kids that bully you and stuff like that, are Greg. Except when Greg does it, he's trying to do it like out of friendship. But when your bullies do it in school, they're just doing it because they're fucking assholes.
Yeah.
So I think it's nice for that Rowley character to stay the same no matter what.
Yeah,
And
I think there's something that's really cool about even though you're bullied and treated like crap for being the way that you are, just accepting yourself to such a degree where that doesn't change you.
right.
That's I don't know, I think that makes him such a cool person.
Right. And even though Rowley does become popular in this, basically, 'cause from the Zooey Mama comics and stuff like that, which we completely forgot to bring up, the Zooey Mama comics and getting his arm broken and stuff like that, I think Greg doesn't become friends with Rowley again because Rowley is now popular. You can tell that he's trying to become friends with Rowley because he genuinely misses him. He
Yeah.
misses having his friend around.
Yeah, and he realizes how important he was even though he wasn't considered cool, because then he's considered cool for the things that he initially liked about Rowley, but then figured that other people wouldn't like, and then he realizes that people like Rowley for who he is, like
Right.
he did,
Yeah.
and maybe he doesn't need to change in order to get that
Yeah,
popularity.
and you absolutely see that at the end where he takes a sacrifice for saying that, like, he ate the cheese.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, Greg in the beginning of the movie would absolutely not do that. That's
Yeah.
something he would not do, and I think also before that interaction, you see Greg kinda turning back into himself where he's like, "I'm not gonna give you that game, it's my game, finders keepers or whatever."
Yeah.
So, I think in that moment, Greg realizes that, like, this is his only chance to get his friend back and, like, how much he misses him and stuff like that, and how finding out or people finding out that Riley ate the cheese affected him, that he took the bullet for that.
And he also realizes that trying to force himself to be someone he's not is it was never going to work.
Right,
It was never going to work. It was so fake and it came across as forced and awkward and put him in positions that were uncomfortable because it wasn't the kind of person he was and he was just pretending and knew he was just pretending.
right. And also, this is kind of going back to the topic between like the first one and the second one. I think the second one works so well because this movie is so good. Because even though Greg has like similar things, like some his similar flaws and stuff like that in the second one, his flaws are not about him being popular. His flaws are about handling having siblings, which is not resolved in this movie in the
Yeah.
first one. So when it carries over into the second one, it feels a lot more impactful, and you're dropping the storyline of him trying to be popular. He's like over that, which I
Yeah.
do appreciate because a lot of times sequels are like, we're just gonna do the same thing again,
Yeah.
and like the way it handles the second one handles siblings is nice because it's not trying to handle the same thing. It's still
Mhm.
addressing Greg's similar flaws, but with a different subject matter.
And I like that both movies don't have, like, a happily ever after. Like, the first movie, Roderick is still an asshole by the end of the
Right.
movie. And,
I'm
I
sorry,
mean,
woman.
same thing with the second one. Those things don't get fixed.
Right.
Like, you're not going to magically be best friends with your siblings. You're not going to magically no longer ever fight with your best friend ever again. And I like that it doesn't push that unrealistic standard that after all this bullshit goes down, everything's going to be absolutely perfect.
Right. And it both movies do have the message of embracing somebody with their flaws and embracing them for who they are. Like that's kind of what both movies are, except first one's about your friend and the second one is about your siblings.
Yeah. And being able to tolerate the parts of them that you don't like and embrace the parts of them that make them weird and different to other people.
Right. Absolutely. So it's going back to the first movie because I don't want to talk about the second one too much, just in case we do talk about it in the future. Uh, but just the way this movie kind of builds it builds Greg so well for the rest of the series to expand them. Now I haven't seen the third one of these, which is Dog Days. Uh, I don't know how that one expands. Greg, I don't know how it does it. I know that one isn't as well liked as either one of these. I'm pretty sure the third one is towards the bottom.
Isn't that the Not My Roderick movie
No,
where
that's
people are
Last Straw.
protesting? Oh,
So what I was explaining earlier is because like 1 and 2 are both Barry Wimpy Kid and Robert Rules, even for the books. But the fourth book is Dog Days, but it's the third movie. But the reboot movie, I'm pretty sure, I'm like 90% sure, is The Last Straw, and that's the third book.
oh, that's
So the
weird.
Not My Roderick is technically the third
Why
book.
did they skip one?
I honestly have no idea. I mean,
That's
I haven't seen
stupid.
Dog Days, so I maybe there's some storytelling reason as to why.
I keep thinking of the song Dog Days.
I don't know what
The
this.
dog days are over.
Oh, okay.
Florence and the Machine. Okay, just me.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking
Okay.
about.
I think Greg has developed into such a like rich, dynamic character, and you really start to understand his motivations behind the things that he does. And I think that's what makes him hard to dislike, even when he's being an absolute asshole, because everybody at some point in their life has done something shitty
Right.
and tried to explain it away.
Mhm.
And so you find yourself kind of relating to him in his best and his worst moments because they make his motivation so clear.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to be bullied and he doesn't want his friend to be bullied and he wants to be popular. And when you're young, that seems like everything because your world is so small. So
Right.
being well liked within middle school is like the end all be all. That's so important to people.
And the movie does do a nice job of having Greg be on the line of like, yeah, I get it, or like, I'm not following this character anymore. Because
Yeah.
like at some point, like there is a line, and I feel like if Greg crossed that line, the audience would be disengaged. They're like, I don't really care what happens to this kid. Like, fuck him. But the movie does do such a good job of riding that line of making Greg liked, but also seeing having Greg be liked, seeing where he's coming from, rather than this seems too far fetched. He's too much of an ass. I can't follow him anymore.
Yeah, because although he acts like a bad person sometimes, he never has bad intentions.
Yeah,
He never wants to really hurt someone, I wouldn't say.
yeah. He just wants to be cool, which I think when you were a kid, that's something you cared about because your world is school,
Yeah.
your school and your neighborhood and your house. Which this movie, his main things are the school or his school, obviously, the house where he lives in, but that's more the second one too. And then his neighborhood is briefly brought up with like the killer murderer woods and the teenagers and stuff like that. So he wants to be popular in his school world. Uh, I forgot where I was going with this. He wants to be popular in his school world so much so that he wants to change his best friend to be in that image.
Yeah. And like I said before, kids have a hard time thinking outside of themselves. And so when they do things that are shitty, they're not necessarily trying to be shitty. And you can very evidently see that with Greg. He's not trying to be an asshole. He's just thinking only about himself, really,
Yeah.
and is an asshole as a consequence,
Mhm.
which to be expected.
Yeah, absolutely. After this conversation, I hope people realize more that this movie's underrated. I really hope people, because like when I watch this movie, I do think it's genuinely one of the best comedies in like the 2010s. Like this
Yeah.
movie is so funny. It does such a great job capturing what it's like to be a kid. For me, at least, because I had to specify not every kid has the same childhood.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, I do think the second one is better, but I don't think just because the second one is better, it should discount this movie. And I feel like a lot of people do that with sequels. When a sequel is better than the first one, I feel like a lot of people just talk about that one. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people will talk about Terminator 2. I'm just using that as an example. Terminator 2 I do think is a better movie than Terminator 1, but Terminator 1 is a really fucking good movie.
Yeah.
And I think people should revisit this one and kind of embrace it for the kind of stupid comedy it is, but it's also kind of deep in its
Yeah.
messaging.
Love it as a standalone movie and a good setup for the second one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really is like the perfect start to the series, and it really does. If this movie didn't work at all, the second one would not be nearly as good because the second one would have to explain everything again. They
Yeah.
had to explain this is Greg, this is his character flaws, this is what's wrong with him. Yeah, he wants to be popular in school or whatever. But this movie does such a good job of just carrying over into the second one. And I do feel like if you watch these movies back to back, it would be like a fucking like hilarious 3 hour long movie.
Yeah.
And the runtime is so nice too. It's like I think it's a nice like hour 30 minutes. I
Yeah, it
love hours.
doesn't feel like it's too long or too short. It
Yeah,
wraps things up well, but leaves room to be expanded upon.
right. Something we actually never mentioned is his parents.
Mm.
Because his parents do play a big role in it, and but it's kind of hard to explain the role that they play because they are more like his guardrails. But I fucking love the dad.
Yeah.
The dad is so funny, and I think the reason why it's kind of hard to put into words is because they're not utilized a ton, but they're more utilized in the second one.
Yeah. Well, I think in the first one, they give him loose guidance and they help him realize how important Rowley is to him and how he's really screwed his friend over.
Right,
And they kind of put him back on track to being nice to Rowley and winning his friendship back.
right. And then also his dad wants to kind of see him improve because like Greg shows interest in wrestling. And the dad's like, "Oh yeah, we'll book you up in like 3 months." And Greg's like, "That's too long."
Yeah.
Said,
And he buys all this equipment for him.
yeah,
Like, the parents try their best to support him in what they think he's interested in, but I think sometimes they're a little dense and not really understanding what's going on.
yeah. I do. I God, I love the dad. He's so funny in this fucking movie. I love just the opening scene. The opening scene really captures this movie so perfectly. It's the Roderick trying to wake him up.
Yep.
It's 5 a.m.
And then Greg ends up being the one to get in trouble.
Yeah, and then and I think the next scene is like fucking his little brother like pissing and shitting like wow.
He's like, "Really? During breakfast?"
But then you find out it's actually his fault. The
Yeah.
reason
But he's still mad about it because, like we've been saying, kids don't really think outside of themselves much.
Yeah,
So he doesn't care that it's his fault, and he doesn't even recognize that it's his fault.
right.
He's just mad about the consequences of his own actions.
Yeah. So, and also I do think that watching those opening scenes kind of shows why he gets to drive to be popular in school because he's obviously not the big dog at the house.
Yeah.
Like he's not in charge at all in the house, so he wants to be in charge at school. He wants to take control of the other part of his life.
Which I think kind of goes into why kids become bullies.
Yeah, yeah,
It's often kids who feel like they have a lack of control in their own personal lives at home, and so they take that out on trying to control their situation at school and trying to control people's narratives about them and stuff like that.
yeah. I mean, I've told you. I'm not going to say the exact story on this podcast, but I've told you the story of what I said to that kid that bullied me in 5th grade,
Yeah.
and it caused him to cry. And it's like I didn't say anything bad to him. It was something about his personal life because he fucking deserved it because he used to always make fun
You
of me.
kid had it coming, not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
All right. So I have some backup on this. Everyone that I've told this story to has backed me up. But I said something to him about his personal life, and he started fucking crying. Wham, 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 wham,
Because it
wham.
was true.
Yeah, because it was true, and it bothered him. And he was one of those kids that was popular. He was, and I think he went on and played baseball in high school, or whatever the fuck. Uh, and now he's probably fucking a real estate agent because they're all real estate agents, especially in Florida.
Or accountants.
Yeah, or an account. So I think the movie does show that personal lives do have a big tie into why kids have the drive to be popular in school.
Yeah. They're trying to control something. And when they can't control things at home, they try to control things at school, meaning controlling other kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I think anyone can think of somebody in school who, when you reflect on it, they probably had a shitty life growing up, and that is probably a big reason why they were shitty in school.
Yeah, so I agree with that.
Shout out to the kid who stole my iPod in elementary school. I know you had a rough life, but you're an asshole for that still.
So, but I do think, kind of going back to this point, that we've spent most of this podcast probably just talking about our childhood, and it sounds like I'm sure somebody's listening to this like, what the fuck does that have to do with everyone? Because I can't even watch that.
Everything. It has
But
everything to do
I
with it.
I think it shows how good of a job it does at capturing the childhood, like,
Yeah.
because we bring up a point about the movie, and we're like, oh yeah, it makes me think of this from when I was a kid. And maybe it's just a time capsule thing. Maybe it's just because I watched this as a kid. But you didn't watch this as a kid. You watched this like maybe a year ago,
Yeah.
and you're still connected to it.
Mhm.
And I think that shows the power of this movie. And I think every critic should change their rating to being at least a 6 or above, so that way it has
Agreed.
100% Rotten Tomatoes.
Agreed. Which I wanna put out there that I can understand it doesn't resonate with everyone. I
Yeah,
think it's meant to be kind of like a middle
yeah,
class
absolutely. Yeah,
depiction of middle school, and obviously it's not going to resonate with people that attended underfunded
yeah,
schools. It's not going to resonate with people that didn't have supportive parents at home because the silly little arguments between Roderick and Greg aren't going to really be representative of what they experienced at home.
yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's important to put that out there that it's very much a middle to upper class depiction of middle
Definitely.
school, so it's not going to be something that everybody can relate to.
Yeah,
And that's totally valid if you can't resonate with it, but I think everybody can kind of see the archetypes of kids at
yeah.
school and can relate to that. Everybody knows somebody who is similar to one of the kids at that school.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. That you probably wouldn't connect with Greg's personal life, but you would connect with the students around him.
Yeah,
Being
'cause
like, I know somebody that was obsessed with some fucking like girly singer or something like that, like
yeah,
Joshy
and
or
there's
whatever.
always the athletic
Yeah,
kids, the theater kids, the kids who are considered gross and losers, and the ones that people make fun of a lot, and the ones that try really hard to be popular and fit in. I think you see that really everywhere. I can only speak for myself, but I assume you see that pretty much
yeah.
everywhere.
Well, I mean, even though I was born and I did pre-K through first grade up in Massachusetts, where you went to school all your life. I went to school in Florida, and I still saw those archetype of kids. Those
Yeah.
archetype of kids still existed. And yeah, I didn't have the town rumors or anything like that, like we did in the Northeast or anything like that. But those archetypes of kids, the type of school I went to, really does capture that is captured from that movie.
You know, thinking about it kind of feels like such a New England thing to have stupid lore about the area that you grew up in that's totally made up. That feels so New England.
Yeah, well, I feel like New England has been. I mean, it was one of the fucking 13th colonies, so it's like,
Yeah,
and no wonder why it's like so built up. And I think these rumors are built up over time. But
that's
yeah,
true.
Florida's been around for a while, but Florida is such a developing state. And when I
Yeah.
was in elementary school, there shit was still developing, so they're not gonna make up rumors about. Do you know about the new houses built in Celebration? They're haunted by Mickey Mouse or anything like that. So yeah, I think you are right. That is definitely a Northeast thing. And like I was saying, I had those rumors about the murderer that lived behind us
Yeah.
was in the Northeast.
Well, because it's been developed for a longer time, there's a lot of old architecture
Absolutely.
here. There's a lot of abandoned houses here. And so naturally, children's minds fill in the gaps and say, oh, there's a killer that lives
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Homeless people live here. And
Right.
yeah.
I do want to briefly bring up, because somebody did mention, the struggle of finding a table for lunch.
Oh my God. It was so real. In high school, I hid behind the stairs for lunch because it was such a humiliating experience when you didn't have the same lunch block as your friends and
Yeah.
you sat at a table with random people by yourself and they looked at you like, the fuck is your problem? Why are you sitting here? So I would go sit behind the staircase, and then one time I got kicked out from there and they were like, go to the guidance office. And so I had to sit there.
I in ninth grade I had lunch with my ninth grade English teacher for like the whole grade, but he was so chill. I love that guy.
I have to say middle school English teacher hosted something called Girls Chat, where any girl that wanted to come eat lunch with her could, and it was like a teacher appropriate little gossip session where you could just talk about your feelings and stuff like that. I think things like that are really cool and they're necessary for a time where you feel so awkward and out of place and everybody's developing at a different age at a different rate and you become really self-conscious and comparing yourself to other people like why are these kids taller? Why do they have more muscle mass? Why are they getting in relationships? Why do they
Yeah.
have more friends? And it's so important for kids to have an outlet for that, and there's not enough of that, and I feel like lunchtime is the perfect time to bring that into the conversation because so many kids just feel super out of place there and have nowhere to go.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's all we really have to talk about. Can't really think of anything else. I feel like we've touched around the same topics like 5 different times in different ways.
Yeah.
Watch this movie. It's underrated. It's a goated movie. I would really like for somebody to watch this and then watch Roderick Rules back to back because I honestly think like it could be like a great like 3 hour long comedy.
Yeah.
And I do get some of the things from each movie mixed up. Like I thought the Playdate with Fregley or the sleepover with Fregley was in the second movie.
Yeah.
And I think there's parts where you think like the parts of the second movie are in the first movie. Like I thought the I'm Sorry Woman was actually in the second one, but it's in this one. So there's shit like that. And I think just the way it's told in stories of like segments of a kid's life and then tied up at the end. Like I never forget the cheese touch is in this movie
Yeah.
because everything is built up to the
Iconic.
cheese touch. Yeah. And then,
Watch them back to back with
yeah,
some popcorn.
watch them back to back and report to us. So
Yes, let us know
immediately.
how it went. And let us know if your opinion has changed over time of the movie, whether that means after you've watched it again as a standalone movie or watching it in your childhood versus watching it as an adult. Let us know if it hits different.
Yeah.
I'm
Or if it
curious.
connects with you.
Yeah.
I'd like to know if it does or doesn't connect with people or why. Because I'm really interested to see if maybe people that don't connect with like the background of Greg still connect with this movie in certain ways.
Yeah. Yeah. If you didn't grow up in middle class suburbia,
Yeah,
how
exactly.
do you relate to this movie, if at all?
Yeah, because if I could see I like you said, I could see somebody not liking this movie because it just doesn't connect with them, and
Yeah.
I feel like if it doesn't connect with you in some way or in any way, you're not gonna like it. I think you're just gonna kinda treat it as a stupid comedy, and yeah, you'll probably get a couple laughs out of it, but you're probably not gonna laugh as somebody who is like, "I remember something like that."
Yeah.
But
It's okay to enjoy a movie and have nothing in common with
yeah,
any of the
yeah, absolutely.
characters,
And
but
it's also fine to dislike a movie because like, you can't really connect with it. I
yeah,
dislike movies 'cause I'm like, "Oh, I don't really" like, I mean, yeah, it's good, but I don't really connect with it. Like, there's
yeah,
just certain movies like that.
yeah, so let us know what you think and what makes you think that.
Yeah. So, and I think that's it. So next week is, or next week, next time is going to be your pick.
Whenever you edit the audio.
Yeah. Well, we're waiting for your movie to come out. So
True. It's actually May 2nd. I thought it
yeah,
came out May 1st, but it's May 2nd. Anyway, we'll be talking about Turtles All the Way Down, John Green book to movie adaptation.
yeah,
I'm hype. It tackles the struggles of an adolescent with OCD and navigating her school life and her love life, stuff like that. So, really good book. I love that book. So, I'm very interested to see how the movie
yeah.
adaptation goes.
And we'll start going back to talking about specific psychological topics. We just haven't been doing it because Katie's been busy and I've been busy.
I'm
So
trying to finish grad school. I'm
yeah,
sorry. I have one last assignment and then I'm getting my MSW. Let's
yep.
go.
So then it's over for her. So that
Yeah.
way we can go back to psychological topics because more of our episodes are going to be like Shutter Island than they
Yeah.
are like
I just have not had the time or energy to be doing research because I have a massive policy paper due, 13 to 15 pages of researching policy, which I have to say, I do not care to do. I'm not like a macro social worker by any means. I'm very much a clinical person. So, researching policy, I'm like, and then I don't wanna put in any time to researching something I care about because 'cause I'm just so fried. My
yeah,
brain is so fried right now.
yeah. So, but I think by the time this comes out, your graduation will be over. So,
Yes, God bless.
But and also if the audience has any suggestions, leave us a comment on YouTube, or on the Instagram or some shit like that. We're
Oh,
definitely
we
looking for
should
audience
put up a
suggestions.
poll for this one as well. Like, can you connect with this movie?
Yeah, yeah, I can do
Yeah,
that.
answer the poll and
Yeah,
put up a
on
poll.
Spotify. I'm pretty sure it's on Spotify. And I'm pretty sure we had a poll for Shutter Island too, but I think that'll probably be closed by this point. So
Yeah, I don't know how that works. I'm not the uploading
yeah,
person.
I do all that. So, but yeah, if you have any suggestions, you also don't need to give like a psychological topic. If you just want to recommend a movie, if we are able to find something out of it, we'll watch it. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, thank you. Follow us on the Instagram, the TikTok. Even though we haven't posted anything on TikTok yet, I think
It's
there's
okay, we'll get there.
there'll be stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
By the time this comes out.
I'm more of the social media manager person, and like I said, I'm kind of fried right now. I'm pushed to my wits end, so I just don't have any gas in the tank to be posting on social media right now, but we'll get it up and running. Follow it for when it's gonna be ready in the
Yeah.
future. So,
And then on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts,
yep.
or recommend it to your friends. So, all right, that's it.
Bye.
Don't come over. Don't talk to me. We're done.
Ever heard of Title 9?